Welcome, Aries, to the month of July 2018. I'm Megan of North Star Astrology, and this is another general transits reading for those of you born with your sun, moon, and or rising signs in the first zodiacal sign of Aries, the cardinal fire sign, Ram. And your ruling planet is Mars. And currently it's been transiting your 11th house of friendships, goals, hopes, and wishes in Aquarius. So the month starts out with, on July 1st, Venus in your 5th house opposing the moon in your 11th house of friendships. So with this, you may need to have greater tact and awareness, emotional awareness toward how you deal with your romantic partners or partnerships. So from the 5th house to the 11th house, this moon or Venus-moon opposition will give you that greater awareness. Excuse me. And then on July 4th, Independence Day, Pluto sextiles the moon once the moon moves into your 12th house of dreams and the subconscious mind into Pisces. And while Pluto has been in Capricorn in your 10th house of career, this pleasant sextile from the moon in your 12th house to Pluto in your 10th house, 2 signs away, gives you this pleasant aspect of your subconscious emotional mind to what you can do to transform something in your career. And that happens at 9:48 on July 4th. Then the last quarter moon happens in your sign, in your 1st house of the self and body, Aries, at 14 degrees Aries, 14 degrees 13 minutes. And with this last quarter moon in your 1st house of the self and body, you might be tying up last moment loose ends concerning something to do with yourself and your body. Maybe some kind of exercise regime that you've finally reached a goal of. And that last quarter moon happened on, or will be happening on July 6th, pardon me. Then on the following day, Venus trines the moon let's see, so since the moon is in Leo and the last quarter moon is in your sign, Aries, So fire to fire gives this very harmonious trine from maybe dealing with last moment creative, in other words, finally unveiling an art gallery that you may have been working on so long for, and then you've pleasantly and harmoniously unveiled it. And this Venus trine the moon from your 5th house to your 1st house can give you that emotional impetus in a very harmonious flow to the love planet in your 5th house, which is such a nice placement for Venus to be in, and be in the very romantic sign of Leo, your sister sign. Then on July 9th, Venus squares the moon when the moon goes into your 2nd house of money and squares Venus. So from the 2nd to the 5th houses, you now may want to watch out with this square for your expenditures. And so from this square from your 2nd house to your 5th house, you now very much may want to not be so impulsive with spending toward your romantic partner, because it could get possibly out of hand. Then on July 10th, Venus then leaves Leo, and this will be the first planet ingress of the month. Now Venus enters an earth sign, Virgo, in your 6th house of work and health and service given. So now you can love what you do for work, as well as take loving care of your health, which, by the way, is your head and your eyes, and watching out for your sleep, as Neptune over here is in your 12th house in Pisces, so you may need more sleep at this time. And then, let's see, Neptune, I just got through mentioning Neptune. Neptune squares the moon also on July 10th. And moon in Gemini in your 3rd house of communications. So from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind, you have this square going on. So maybe you might be more inclined to speak about spiritual matters and or something to do with intellectually tapping into some of your dreams. Then the new moon happens when the moon joins along with the sun in your fourth house of the home in Cancer at 20 degrees Cancer, 41 minutes. The other cardinal sign to you, this is a cardinal leadership sign, so you now may actually take new strides in your home to get things done more effectively and start new home improvement projects. That's something I need to do. Then on July 13th as well, we now have a partial solar eclipse. And anytime there's a new moon or a full moon, in this case the new moon, you now have, I made this up, it's a little piece of purple felt. This is the partial solar eclipse happening in your fourth house, which can cause, may or may not, sudden changes. As I said, some sort of home improvement projects, newness, changes, hopefully for the best, beneficial. And this happens at the 3 o'clock hour. It says 3, 2, and 18 seconds. And what the partial, now I'm so new to this still, but I'm very abreast of the prenatal solar and lunar eclipses, but to explain this to you in the most beneficial way, I would just say that, as I pointed out, this is just something to do with sudden changes within the home. And I'll just leave that here for now, maybe just for a while. Then on June 14th, Mercury conjuncts the moon. When the moon goes into your fifth house of romance, so now we have a Mercury conjunct the moon at 23:13, 23 hours, 13 minutes. And with this moon conjunct Mercury, your emotions are tightly in check with your mind. So mind and emotions in the fifth house of romance and creativity, really on point for you, as you, Aries, rule the brain and the like mind power, and you want to do things almost sometimes impulsively, impatiently, and in a hurry. But this hopefully will give you I don't know, maybe some sort of emotional an intellectual ability to tap in, romantically speaking, to be more emotionally present with a romantic partner, and or your creative pursuits. Then on July 17th, the sun sextiles the moon once the moon goes into your 6th house into Virgo, into the 6th house of health and work and service given. So now you have a very pleasant energy from the home, within the home, to your workplace, and the ability to pleasantly interact. Either you have a work from home situation, or you're able to communicate as well as emotionally connect in a loving way toward your coworkers about home matters. Then, in other words, without stepping on people's toes. Then on July 19th, the sun squares the moon once the moon goes into your 7th house of relationships, into Libra. So now you have the other cardinal sign, this time cardinal error, and your opposite sign, Libra. Moon squares the sun here, now giving you even more of an impetus or drive to shed light on what you deal with in terms of, or how you deal with from a soul standpoint, soulful Cancerian feeling toward not only your significant other within the home base, but some sort of business associate with that square. Then also on July 19th, there is a first quarter moon happening at 19:53, 19 hours and 53 minutes. 27 degrees Libra, 5 minutes. This is when the first quarter moon happens, also in your 7th house of relationships. And what this can do with this, or what you can do with the first quarter moon, is start possibly taking off with a new or first, say you've gotten married or something, and your partner is now, you're feeling emotional from a first quarter standpoint. Then on July 22nd, the sun in Cancer trines the moon in Scorpio. So now you have yet another very harmonious trine aspect, this time from the 4th house of the home to the 8th house of other people's resources. And so maybe you can garner some kind of emotional support and or backing financially for the home. Then on July 24th, Mercury trines the moon. Once the moon goes into your 9th house, the other fire sign, and trines Mercury in Leo. So from your 5th to your 9th houses, you now have the ability to communicate with and through emotionally and very harmoniously, either with foreigners, because the ninth house deals with foreign lands, or during and through a long distance trip. So there's an emotional connection there, a very intellectual and romantic, very flowy aspect there. Then on July 26th, where did it go? Oh. Then on July 26th, the moon conjuncts Pluto in your 10th house of career. Uh-oh. I got way ahead of myself here. On July 22nd, the sun leaves Cancer and goes into Leo. Sorry about that. I got ahead of myself. On July 22nd. So now the sun is in Leo, the other fire sign. And anyhow, with this Pluto conjunct moon in your 10th house of career in Capricorn, there is a very solid ability to emotionally transform yourself in your career sector. Then the moon goes into your 11th house of friendships in Aquarius. I like to fiddle with all my pieces of planet papers, planet labels. Okay, on July 27th, we now have a full moon. So now the axis energy from the 5th house to the 11th house of friendships, you now have a full moon at 4 degrees Aquarius, 45 minutes. And there is a total lunar eclipse looking like the glyph of a barbell is how a astrological lunar eclipse comes about. Okay? And here again, with this now very feminine total lunar eclipse happening at T1.6 hundredths, I don't know how that's expressed, but there is a greater emphasis on major changes within friendships. Maybe you're losing friends or gaining them. There's usually changes when there's eclipses. Somebody or something is going to be eclipsed out of your life. Oh, and if I've forgotten to mention, and I apologize, Jupiter has been going retrograde since March 9th and went direct, which gives you big energy and that went direct, Jupiter went direct on July 26th. So I got ahead of myself again. So the day before the total lunar eclipse, Jupiter went direct in your 8th house, giving you big time beneficial energies. And also, Mercury went retrograde on July 26th, so I'm only off by a day on on either side of the spectrum here. It's like weird. Okay, and it's not even Mercury retrograde yet. But my being a Pisces, go figure, that's usually what happens. I get befuddled. Okay, Mercury, when did that go retrograde? Okay, on the 26th in your 5th house. Meanwhile, the only other opposition of the month is when Mercury, again being retrograde, opposes the full moon in Aquarius. So Mercury in Leo and Aquarius here, 5th and 11th house energy pattern here with this point of awareness. And hopefully this helped. I'm so sorry for the flub ups. Always, usually it starts out this way, but I warm up into the following signs. I apologize for that, but if you did like, please give me a thumbs up, comment down below, and or subscribe. Thank you and have a happy 4th of July.